Hi everyone, and welcome to Chapter 18, Colonial Encounters in Asia and Africa, 1750 to 1950, and we're going to cover Section 2, a second wave of European conquests. Okay, the period 1750 to 1900 saw a second distinct phase of European colonial conquest. They focused on Asia and Africa, and there were several new players in this new wave. Germany, Italy, Belgium, the United States, and Japan. In general, Europeans preferred informal control, but competition between other European powers drove outright conquest in some circumstances. If you'll remember, the first wave of European colonialism saw the Iberian Peninsula expansion into the Americas, followed by the English, the French, and the Dutch as they colonized other parts in the region. And then the second wave, Germany, Belgium, Italy, U.S., Japan, they're all now joining the competition to annex lands in Asia, Africa, and Oceania. Now, the establishment of the second wave European empires was based on military force or threat, the threat of using it. Original European military advantage lay in organization, drill, and command structure. And over the 19th century, Europeans developed an enormous firepower advantage, repeating rifles and machine guns, for example. And numerous wars of conquest were fought. The Westerners almost always won. Central to any imperial expansion is military power. Thanks to industrialization, Europeans enjoyed a major technological advantage with weapons such as the machine gun and the Maxim gun that was used against lightly armed Africans and Asians. And becoming a colony happened in a variety of ways. Gather, hunter, agriculture, and pastoralists were incorporated into complex civilizations for the first time. India and Indonesia grew from interaction with European trading firms, and most of Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific Islands were part of deliberate conquests. And decentralized societies without a formal state structure were the hardest to conquer. So in South Asia and the islands of Southeast Asia, the older East India engaged in a slow and unplanned but steady expansion of territory that culminated in the late 19th and early 20th century. And millions of Asians in vast stretches of real estate were brought under the control of the British Raj and the Dutch East Indies. And here's a map. I think this is a great visual to show you which European countries controlled which parts of Asia and Oceania, and it's color coordinated, as you can see. Right, Japan controls part of Russia and Korea. Right, Great Britain controls India. That's the British Raj I was talking about. Netherlands, right, the Dutch here in Indonesia, and France, French Indochina with Vietnam, parts of Cambodia and Laos, and the United States, the Philippines. And here's what it looks like in Africa. And this is known as the Scramble for Africa. It's in 1885, as European countries began to colonize parts of Africa, they got together, and as long as they could show that they had control over a particular area, then other European countries recognized those as colonies of their neighbors. And you can see the British, French, German, Italians, Portuguese, Belgians, Spanish, all participating in the Scramble for Africa. The only one that remained independent was Ethiopia. Okay, Australia and New Zealand were more like the colonization of North America, with massive European settlement and diseases that killed off most of the native populations. And the United States and Russia also continued to expand. Taiwan and Korea felt a Japanese takeover that was done European style, and Liberia was settled by freed U.S. slaves. And Ethiopia and Siam, or what is known as Thailand, avoided colonization rather skillfully. And the Asians and African societies generated a wide range of responses to that European threat. In Africa and certain Asian countries, the European invasion and conquest was unexpected, sudden, and rather devastating. Unable to understand European motives and their techniques, various kingdoms were completely overwhelmed by the imperial invaders. And yet in other places, such as the French conquest of Samori towards the empire in West Africa, it took many years of difficult fighting to subdue. Oh, sorry about that. And that is the end of section 2. Oh, I forgot one quick thing that I wanted to add about this particular slide. In Australia and New Zealand and Hawaii, those are isolated populations that were invaded by white settlers and their diseases, and within a few generations, the indigenous population became impoverished and displaced minorities in their own lands. The United States and the Russian Empire both engaged in expansion across vast stretches of continental land, displacing the indigenous Native Americans and Central Asians or Siberians. And the United States would also expand into the Caribbean and Pacific Ocean, seizing Puerto Rico and Hawaii and the Philippines as part of the Spanish-American War in the late 1890s. And the Japanese colonization in Taiwan and Korea, where newly industrialized Japan flexed its muscles by annexing the island of Taiwan and the Korean peninsula, and then engaged in a style of colonialism that was similar to the European examples that they had previously seen. And Ethiopia, kind of like a defiant Ethiopia and a diplomatic Siam, the two leading exceptions are by far Ethiopia and Siam to this wave of imperialism, which defeated Ethiopia defeated Italy in the 1896 Battle of Adwa, and Siam, which is now Thailand, used diplomacy and accommodation to avoid imperial annexation. So just a couple things I wanted to add in there. Okay, that is legitimately the end of section 2, and I will see you guys for comparing colonial, or I'm sorry, we just compared colonial colonies, didn't we? I will see you for under European rule. That's the next one.